Lily and Marcus Bennett were the couple everyone dreamed of becoming: charming, successful, and inseparable. But behind their perfect smiles and lakeside love story lurked a chilling secret. When Lily vanished without a trace, the town of Willow Creek was left grasping for answers. What began as a missing persons case would unravel into a web of deceit, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. In a story where love turned lethal, the truth behind the Bennett's perfect marriage would shock everyone who thought they knew them. Lily and Marcus Bennett were the kind of couple that people envied. They seemed to have it all: good looks, stable careers, and a love story that felt like it was lifted from a romance novel. They had met during college and married young, quickly becoming inseparable. As they built their life together in Willow Creek, a small and peaceful town, their relationship became the talk of the neighborhood. Their house set neatly on a quiet street, always manicured, always decorated just right. They hosted wine nights and holiday parties that drew in neighbors, who admired how effortlessly they made marriage look perfect. Lily worked as a beloved elementary school teacher. Her days were spent guiding children with patience and kindness. Her presence alone seemed to calm even the most unruly student. She was soft-spoken, organized, and constantly smiling. Marcus, meanwhile, was an ambitious architect. He designed custom homes and commercial spaces across the region, earning praise from clients and praise from peers. With his tall frame, tailored suits, and easy charisma, he always seemed like the man who had everything under control. Together, they were admired, praised as an example of what love could be. After a decade of marriage, they bought a lake house just outside the city. It was tucked among tall trees, with a private dock and wide windows that looked out over the water. They called it their escape from reality, a place where they could reconnect away from the noise of everyday life. Photos of the lake house filled their social media: Lily lounging with a book by the water, Marcus grilling on the back deck, their golden retriever splashing in the shallows. They smiled in every picture, as if frozen in a perfect moment of happiness. But sometimes, perfection is an illusion. Small things began to shift. Marcus started spending more time away from home, claiming work had picked up. Lily, who used to beam with enthusiasm at staff meetings, seemed distracted. Her colleagues noticed she had grown quieter, sometimes staring off for minutes at a time before snapping back into conversation. She stopped sharing stories about Marcus. She didn't talk about the lake house anymore. When asked if everything was okay, she simply said she was tired. Still, nothing seemed serious enough to sound an alarm. People assumed the stress of carry-home maintenance and marriage had taken a toll, as it does for many. No one suspected that beneath the carefully managed life they displayed, something sinister might be taking root. Friends remained in awe of the Bennetts. No one questioned Marcus when he showed up alone to events, casually saying Lily was visiting her parents or under the weather. No one suspected anything. The morning Lily didn't show up for work, what began as an ordinary absence would soon unravel the entire illusion and lead to a chilling investigation that left the whole town shaken. Lily's sudden absence from school sparked immediate concern. She was the kind of teacher who never missed a day without calling in. Her colleagues waited, expecting a text or email that never came. By the second day, whispers spread in the teacher's lounge. Calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. A few coworkers visited her home, but found it locked and dark. The golden retriever was seen pacing behind the front window, barking as if confused or anxious. Something felt off. Marcus finally returned their calls, sounding composed but oddly distant. He told them Lily had left town to visit a sick relative, an aunt no one had ever heard of. He said it was a sudden trip, and that Lily needed a break. While the explanation seemed plausible at first, it didn't align with Lily's meticulous nature. She always planned things in advance, left notes, sent texts, followed up, and she would never leave her dog behind without making arrangements. A few close friends began to suspect something was wrong. Police were contacted to perform a wellness check. When officers arrived at the Bennett home, Marcus greeted them calmly. He repeated the story about the aunt, insisting that Lily needed privacy. The officers noticed the home was unnaturally clean, almost sterile. The air was thick with the scent of bleach, The furniture was spotless, the floors freshly mopped. Lily's keys were still hanging by the door, her purse sat untouched on the entryway table, and her phone charger was still plugged into the wall. It was as if she had disappeared in the middle of her routine without taking anything with her. When the police asked Marcus about these inconsistencies, he shrugged them off, suggesting she was just overwhelmed and left in a hurry, but his demeanor seemed forced. He wasn't emotional, angry or worried, just mechanical. The police couldn't detain him without cause, so they filed a missing persons report and began an investigation. Neighbors were interviewed, and a few shared troubling observations. One neighbor said she'd heard shouting coming from the house nights before Lily's disappearance. Another reported seeing Marcus dragging a large bin from the garage into his SUV late at night. Still, none of it was enough for authorities to act definitively. They requested surveillance footage from nearby homes, but the Bennett property had no functioning cameras. Marcus claimed they were being replaced. Meanwhile, Lily's bank records were frozen in time. No withdrawals, no charges, no hotel stays or flights. Her phone remained off, with no signs of activity. The dog was taken in by a friend, and the lake house was checked. There, investigators made another discovery. The security system had been disabled, and the guest bedroom reeked of bleach. A large rug was missing, and a fresh coat of paint covered one section of the wall. It became clear that Lily hadn't simply gone away. Something far more troubling had occurred, and the clues left behind pointed to a dark truth slowly coming into focus. The missing persons case quickly escalated into something far more serious. Detectives began to piece together a timeline of Lily's final known movements. Surveillance from a local gas station showed her filling up her car 2 days before she vanished. She looked tired, withdrawn, and didn't speak to anyone. That was the last public sighting. After that, there were no confirmed appearances, no witnesses, and no digital footprint. Her car remained parked in the garage, untouched. The growing silence around Lily's life was deafening. Investigators turned their focus to Marcus. His statements were inconsistent. He had first claimed Lily left to visit an aunt, then later said she needed time to herself and didn't want to be found. His emotions didn't match the situation. He wasn't making calls or checking in with her family, who now insisted they hadn't heard from Lily in weeks. When questioned further, Marcus became evasive. He requested a lawyer and refused to let police search the vehicles on his property without a warrant. Behind the scenes, forensic teams began combing through the Bennett residences. At the lake house, luminol testing revealed trace amounts of blood on the floorboards of the guest bedroom. Though the room had been thoroughly cleaned and repainted, the chemical illuminated faint but distinct blood splatter patterns. DNA testing confirmed it belonged to Lily. Police now had probable cause to search further, and a warrant was issued for Marcus's vehicles, electronic devices, and both properties. What they found next deepened the mystery. In the trunk of Marcus's SUV, cadaver dogs indicated the scent of human remains. Though the vehicle had been scrubbed clean, fragments of carpet fibers and dirt were found wedged beneath the back seat. Soil testing revealed a match to a forested area near Pine Hollow Ravine, rough terrain just 10 miles from the lake house. A trail camera owned by a local hunter captured Marcus's vehicle passing through the area around 2:15 a.m. on the night Lily vanished. He hadn't mentioned this trip in any of his interviews. Detectives combed through Marcus's phone records and emails. There, they discovered a string of deleted messages between him and a woman named Danielle Myers. She was younger, recently divorced, and had met Marcus through a real estate deal months earlier. Their messages revealed a romantic relationship, with Marcus promising that he was almost free, and that things will be better once it's done. Danielle claimed she had no idea Lily was missing and believed Marcus was in the middle of a separation. The illusion of a perfect marriage was gone. Marcus, once seen as a devoted husband, now looked like a man with motives and secrets. Public interest in the case exploded. News outlets reported every new detail, and locals began sharing their suspicions. Despite the growing body of evidence, Lily's body still hadn't been found. Without it, prosecutors hesitated to pursue full murder charges, but investigators were confident they were closing in. They returned to Pine Hollow with a full search team, determined to uncover the truth buried in the dirt. Search teams descended on Pine Hollow with cadaver dogs, forensic analysts, and ground-penetrating radar. The wooded area was vast and overgrown, but searchers were determined. After days of combing through the terrain, a shallow depression was discovered near a cluster of rocks, partially concealed by fallen leaves and debris. As investigators dug, they unearthed a large tarp, tightly wrapped and bound with heavy rope. The smell confirmed their fears before they fully uncovered the remains. Inside the tarp was a badly decomposed female body, wrapped in bedsheets that matched a set missing from the Bennett Lake House. Dental records confirmed what everyone suspected: it was Lily. News of the discovery spread rapidly. The town of Willow Creek was stunned. What had started as a quiet absence had turned into a brutal tragedy. Now, there was a body, a crime scene, and a husband with every reason to be suspected. Detectives returned to Marcus with the evidence, and this time, they had everything they needed. He was arrested at his office without incident. No resistance, no questions, just silence as he was led away in handcuffs. As investigators delved deeper into Marcus's life, more disturbing details surfaced. The romantic relationship with Danielle Myers was only part of the story. Financial records showed Marcus had recently increased Lily's life insurance policy to over $500,000. The paperwork had been submitted weeks before her disappearance. On top of that, he had applied for a second mortgage on the lake house without Lily's signature, indicating he expected to access money soon. Danielle, shocked by the arrest, agreed to cooperate. She handed over her phone, which held even more damning messages. Marcus had sent her vague but disturbing statements, hinting that Lily wouldn't be a problem much longer, and that he was handling things for their future together. Danielle had interpreted these as signs of a messy divorce, not a prelude to murder. Her testimony would later become a central part of the prosecution's case. Meanwhile, a forensic team reviewed digital data from Marcus's home computer and recovered deleted files. Among them were maps of remote forest areas, searches about decomposition rates, and questions like, how long before a missing person is declared dead? He had even visited websites discussing murder cases involving spouses. The evidence painted a chilling picture of planning, not passion. Marcus hadn't snapped. He had orchestrated the entire thing with calculated precision. Autopsy results revealed that Lily had died from blunt force trauma to the head, followed by suffocation. The force of the blow fractured her skull, and forensic analysts determined it had likely been caused by a heavy household object. No such item was found in the home, suggesting it had been removed and disposed of after the crime. The perfect husband persona had completely crumbled. Marcus, once seen as a loyal partner and successful professional, now stood exposed as a man who viewed his wife as an obstacle. The mask had slipped, and underneath it was a cold, methodical killer. All that remained was for the justice system to decide his fate. The courtroom was packed on the first day of the trial. Locals, journalists, and even distant acquaintances of the Bennetts filled every seat, eager to witness the unraveling of a man once seen as flawless. Marcus sat silently at the defense table, wearing a dark suit and the same expressionless face that had unsettled investigators from the beginning. Prosecutors laid out a compelling case, backed by physical evidence, digital trails, and a growing list of incriminating behaviors. The picture they painted was clear. Marcus had carefully planned Lily's murder to free himself from the marriage and claim financial benefits, all while continuing a secret relationship. The prosecution began by detailing Lily's disappearance, and the timeline Marcus had initially offered one that unraveled quickly under scrutiny. They presented security footage of Marcus's vehicle near Pine Hollow Ravine, and testimony from search teams about the recovery of Lily's body. The tarp, the bedsheets, the DNA all tied directly to items missing from the lake house. Crime scene analysts explained the blood patterns found at the property, reinforcing that Lily had been killed inside the home, not elsewhere. Key testimony came from Danielle Myers, who took the stand reluctantly. She described how Marcus had led her to believe he was in the process of leaving Lily, and that the lake house would be their new home together. Her phone records included dozens of messages from Marcus that revealed his manipulative and deceptive nature. One of the most damaging pieces of evidence was a message that read, "It'll be over soon, and we'll finally have peace." While Danielle had never interpreted it as violent at the time, in hindsight, the message was damning. The defense attempted to argue that Marcus had no direct motive to kill Lily, suggesting instead that she had taken her own life, and Marcus had panicked. But the forensic evidence left no room for doubt. The injuries Lily suffered were not self-inflicted, and her body had been hidden, not discovered. The insurance documents, the financial strain, and the secret affair all pointed to premeditation. The defense struggled to create reasonable doubt in the face of such overwhelming detail. One final piece sealed Marcus's fate. Hidden in a drawer found during a secondary search was Lily's handwritten journal. In it, she detailed growing fear in the final months of her life. She wrote about Marcus's mood swings, unexplained absences, and her suspicion that he was hiding something. One chilling entry read, "If anything happens to me, it won't be an accident." The courtroom fell silent as the words were read aloud. Jurors listened intently, some visibly shaken. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. Marcus Bennett was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The community of Willow Creek was left stunned, not only by the crime itself, but by how well the illusion of a perfect marriage had concealed such darkness. The case became a lasting reminder that sometimes, the most beautiful love stories can hide the most terrifying truths.